The Locks are back and the keys are getting out of control. Season 2 of the Netflix original series, Locke and Key, is out now. So are you willing to unlock the mystery of the show? You see what I did there? Please don't unsubscribe. Tyler, Kinsey, and Bode Locke, along with the Savinis, continue their quest to secure all of the magical keys and prevent evil demons from wreaking havoc. So Locke and Key is based on a comic by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. And this is the second season where we find the Locke children desperately trying to find all of the magical keys to defeat the evil Dodge, who's now in the form of Kinsey's boyfriend, Gabe. This picks up pretty much where Season 1 left off, where we learn that Dodge didn't get thrown through the black door, but instead is alive and well and planning how to steal all of the keys. So the first season was fun from an adventure standpoint. I mean, we watch our characters discover the existence of the keys, and then try to figure out what they do and how to use them. In this season, there's some of that same adventure to be had, but more of the story excitement comes from the deception and the conniving of Gabe. We get to learn why he's interested in the keys and what his larger plan is. The season is 10 episodes, with each of them being around 50 minutes long. And there is a lot of back and forth in this, where it seems like there's a lot of story progression, but just in reality, not much actually does happen in the time that we watch. I began to feel like portions of each episode could be cut, without any detriment to the story, which then would allow the narrative to progress faster and more efficiently. I think this season takes on a darker tone, or maybe it's just more brooding. I mean, the teen angst that was present in the first is still here again, but now, because this is less about finding keys and more about stopping the nefarious usage of those keys, it has a more serious bent to it. I liked how the character of Eden takes on a much larger role this time. Because she was hit with the whispering metal at the end of Season 1, she's now possessed by some demon, and I just found it humorous that just about every time we see her character, she's shoving her face with some sort of food. She's become the sidekick to Gabe, and sometimes their banter works well, even causing some chuckles, but other times, and probably most of the time, their interactions are a bit cringy and forced. Now, Gabe is supposed to be a menacing force throughout this season, but it is a little difficult because he looks like Alfred E. Newman, and I never felt any true tension created by his character. He's meant to be powerful and cunning and devious, but none of that really comes through in the performance. What I kept seeing was just this whiny little kid who thought he was big and bad, but he wasn't. So I didn't realize this the first time I saw Coda, that Apple TV Plus movie about a child of deaf adults, but Amelia Jones stars in that, and she plays Kinsey in this. And I loved her in Coda, and in this season of Locke and Key, she just doesn't get to show off a great range of emotional depth for her character. I mean, she pulls off annoyed really well. She also conveyed convincing sadness or loss to a certain degree, but I think the character was pretty shallowly written this go-round. Connor Jessup, who plays Tyler, feels like he's overacting or trying too hard a lot of the time. Now, I still like him as a character, but so many of his scenes felt like he was straining to find the right emotion, making them all seem like they were just too much. And that really is the feeling I got from most of the performances, that they were just a bit too melodramatic. This would then break me out of any tension that's created because it became more distracting than suspenseful. There's also the infusion of some romance and mystery within a relationship, but unfortunately, it just doesn't fully amount to much. When the season concludes, there was a build-up and a large amount of time devoted to that arc, but then nothing comes of it. Now, some of the special effects in this are lackluster. Now, maybe my advanced screening copy didn't have every single effect polished yet, but there are some towards the end of the show that seemed like they just weren't even trying. Some people go down to the sea cave, and not only is the background glitchy and then poorly textured, but the sea spray that comes from the sides looks like somebody with a hose and a sprinkler is trying to make that effect. But then there are some episodes where the effects are great. There's a new key that is discovered, and when used in conjunction with a model, there is a lot of fun to be had. And one scene just in particular, is nasty and it made my skin crawl, but the episode was exciting and fun. As to be expected, there are a lot of story conveniences built in, which allow the narrative to progress without complications. And these didn't necessarily bother me because when they happened, they actually sped up some of the storytelling, preventing scenes from dragging on and on. Really, if you think about it, the keys themselves are major plot conveniences. They exist to get the characters out of sticky situations and also to cause some. But most of the time, they help our players move from one portion of the narrative to the next unencumbered. Despite all the negatives I've listed, I still had fun with the adventure. I like the search and even the chase that is inherent in finding the keys. I also like when new keys are discovered and getting to see what they did. There's more history and lore that is explored this season, which I enjoyed because it begins to provide more and more context and background for how that gateway came to be. The story also uses some of this background to provide more legs to the series, allowing it to progress into new territory within new complications. So overall, Season 2 of Locke and Key was just okay. The acting was consistent in its melodrama, and the story takes a lot of time to make the progression it does. I would have preferred more efficient storytelling, using the allotted time to move the narrative forward faster. The effects are uneven, but I do acknowledge that this could have been the result of having an early screening copy. And while some of the story arcs are sometimes lackluster, and even some that are left wanting, the chase and adventure that ensue are enjoyable. I'll tune in for a third season, but it's not something that I'm salivating to get to. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a decent amount of violence. I give Season 2 of Locke and Key 3 out of 5 couches. Are you a fan of this series? Who's your favorite character, or what key would you love to have? I want the Anywhere key personally, but I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.